Is Test cricket massively overrated?
No.
Bumble?
No, I love Test cricket. I love everything about Test. It's 4 letters, Test. It is a test of endurance, stamina, know-how, thought. But I also like going to a Test match, and I'll miss half an hour. I'll go, all right, Tommy, how you doing? Let's go and have a cup of this or a beer, and I can dip in and dip out.
See,
I
that
love
to me,
aspect of
Bumble,
it.
almost sounds like an argument against Test cricket. That doesn't sound like a normal sport that you can just not watch it for half an hour.
It's unique. It's 5 days. Get back to America. You tell this bloke that we can go for 5 days and nobody wins. He thinks you're boring me. But we don't get that now. Test cricket has moved on.
We eliminated the draws to appeal to America.
Well, not long ago, it keeps getting muted. Should we have 4-day Test match cricket? And that is a good argument now because these games are pushed on. And if the players, I'm getting back to it, if they kicked on, and bowled a number of overs in the day and got on with it, you've every chance of playing 4 days because as it used to be day one, team bats for 100 and whatever overs and it's 212 for 3. That's like watching a fire go out. You bat 112 overs now, you're near 400. It's changed, it's moved on.
I wouldn't disagree that at its best, Test cricket is the best, personally. But is it not got a touch of the Zach Crawleys about it? Incredibly high ceiling, but there's a lot of rubbish Test cricket played. So you're a historian, right?
Yep.
You wrote a book studying the history of Test cricket, which was called?
Test Cricket, the Unauthorised Biography. Where is it? Why don't we have a copy of our books?
How many
Gideon Haigh books do you own, John?
So Bumble, well, none at the moment, they're all here. Bumble, Jarrod went through the history of every Test playing nation, right? You looked at every single series, every single country had ever played. So you tell me how many classic Test series there have been involving Bangladesh.
What?
How many classic Ashes series have there been in Australia in our lifetime?
Every one of them. Every one.
So the Basin Reserve is seen as the spiritual home of cricket in New Zealand. Between the year of 1983 and 1993, they played 10 times and they drew 9 times.
It's very windy.
How many times has there been a classic series in India featuring England in our lifetime?
Yeah, I don't think.
High ceiling, but a lot of Tino Bests.
So, very unfair on Tino Best.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. But I think if you look at it from that way, how many close Test matches do we watch? I mean, back when Bumble was around, it was very hard to see a close Test match, right? You had the drawn Test match. You had a couple of close Test matches where it came to, there was the one in Melbourne. There's a couple, not that many. But when you have that...
Thank you for making my argument.
Yeah, but when you have that, the height of that is unlike other sport. Because the investment that you have to put into Test cricket as a fan isn't like another sport, right? Basketball, netball, brilliant sports, but they are contrived by the fact that there's an equal amount of possessions on each side. So generally, if the two sides are roughly as good as each other, it's always going to end up close. T20 cricket, exactly the same. 120 balls, you're roughly going to end up pretty close to each other.
Yes.
But we forget the results of a lot of those games, right? The thing that Test cricket has is when you see Monty and Jimmy batting out a draw,
Yes.
right?
Cardiff.
You can't unforget that, right? It is part of your DNA. So it takes the great moments of sport to a whole other level, right? So golf. We all know that when a Masters is on and it comes down to the final afternoon, we all get very, very excited. But if you're a real golf fan, every weekend there's a tournament somewhere. And every third weekend it comes down pretty close. How many close Test matches do we actually get? How many Headingleys, well, a couple of Headingleys in this case, do we actually get, right? When a Test match comes down to that. So it takes it to a whole nother level, to the point at which you see fans from other countries who aren't even following that Test match will watch the last hour and a half of England-Pakistan. Remember that one where all the shadows are on the wicket and everything? Whatever it is, everyone gets involved, because at that stage, Test cricket is no longer like a normal sport. Right? It's not like football at that stage. It's not like any other sport. It's gone to a completely different level that you are involved in, even if you're not playing, because of the amount of time that you invested in this. And you also know in your subconscious that it might take a year before you see another game like this. So you're right. It is highs and lows, and there aren't as many highs, and there's a lot of consistent lows.
Yeah.
But the highs aren't like other sports, right? You can have 10 close T20 games in a row. Like the start of this World Cup, we had 3 cracking games where like everything was happening. In a week's time, no one's going to remember what happened in the USA-Canada game, right? Whereas that last test match where they got that feeling, and you can feel it in your body, your legs start to tingle when a test match starts to get close, and you suddenly realize it's going to go down to the end. It isn't like anything else.
But you've also got a day at the test. I'm not bothered who wins and who draws. I was just having an event, a day at the test.
Is that the same the world over, though? There was, in 2019,
I think it
Ben
is in
Stokes,
Australia, yeah,
Ben
yeah.
Stokes did what Ben Stokes did at Headingley. We were all there for it.
Yeah.
To this day, it's the greatest sporting moment I've ever seen live, and still actually is making me come out of goosebumps. It was just off the scale, ridiculousness. But at the same time, or in the same year, was it Kusal Mendes?
Yep.
In Sri Lanka, in South Africa, did a similar thing against a brilliant bowling attack in front of nobody. And the question came up, which was the better innings? And you can argue Stokes or you can argue Mendes. But at the end of the day, doesn't the fact that there was a crowd at Headingley,
Yes.
and isn't the fact that there was
helps.
so much Test cricket played in front of nobody, again, it doesn't really matter, does it? If the game can reach those heights, if nobody's there to watch it, doesn't that detract from the sport?
If you did you watch any of that live? Mendes, Kusal Mendes one?
Yes, I think I saw the beginning of it, not towards the end of the innings.
Anyone who watched towards the end.
Yeah, but there's nobody there.
There wasn't a lot, but there isn't a lot of people at fifth day crowds throughout the history of Test cricket, right? That is unfortunately how crowds work. But the TV viewing they probably got higher ratings for the hour and a half as he was going nuts at the end that South Africa's ever had for a Test match, right? Everyone in the world was talking about that, and anyone who watched it still remembered it. It doesn't need to always exist in the highest rating block. It doesn't always have to
matter
have
to the
message.
players? Would it matter to Kusal Mendes that there's nobody there? I
Can
mean,
we tell
Ben
it-
Stokes, we would say, it's
played.
romantic to
You
say
played.
he's driven. He's
Yeah.
driven by the crowd. It's an
Yeah.
extra player.
Well, I think it adds to the
But if
drama
you're
and
an
it
away
adds
player
to the
anyway,
pressure.
you're not expecting the crowd to be on your side, are you?
No.
They were hoping, the 12 people that were in that ground were all hoping that Kusal Mendes was eventually
It
going to
went
hit
in
the
the
ball straight
air.
up in the air, wasn't he?
And then it spoils it for the TV viewers.
Yeah.
Because the viewing figures, as they all do, all broadcasters are looking at viewing figures, and there'd be a massive spike there
Yeah.
worldwide
Yeah.
watching this innings. And then, usual thing, if he got out, he'd have gone boom.
Yep.
He'd turn off.
I think it was Dean Jones, but I might be wrong.
Right.
But he released a stat a few years ago,
He was good at that.
not about a game that was taking place, but again about TV viewing figures. In India, 49 out of the top 50 most viewed cricket in India in that given year was all white ball cricket, which
Yes.
again, unless there was a lot of really bad, boring Test cricket, kind of suggests that everyone in the world isn't watching. Actually, everyone in the world is watching the white ball stuff. If you're looking at bare numbers on social or in TV or wherever, the bare numbers worldwide are not watching Test cricket.
So
Is Test cricket just a narrative driven by England and Australian cricket fans?
no, because yes, the white ball games get more interest. They don't get more interest on social media. They don't get more interest from TV companies who want to show cricket that goes for 2, 3, 4 days in a row so they can get the same fans back over and over again. It doesn't have the same kind of advertising because it usually goes to a younger audience, so you don't get the same sort of luxury brands to advertise. Test cricket is doing better than ODI cricket at the moment, and not even by a little bit. Right? Test cricket is doing way better.
I
can tell you this
don't
for a
know if
fact.
that's true.
Well, I can tell you this for a fact.
What is the latest
Let me tell you-
Indian TV
You're talking
deal
about
for red ball
broadcasters.
cricket? Yeah.
Broadcasters asked the ICC to move their premier tournaments to T20 and not to 50 overs. They don't want to cover 50 over cricket.
It's vulnerable. 50
Yeah, but
overs
still-
is vulnerable.
That's the broadcasters. That isn't
I
any
understand. I
narrative.
understand a move away from 50 over cricket to 20.
Yeah.
But
So
I'm saying that the move
it
is.
used to be, what about 40 overs? What's wrong with 40 overs?
40
Well,
over
actually, there is actually an argument to make.
Don't
50
get
over
me started.
cricket.
50 overs, 40. I mean, it bubbles
It
away.
does actually make
Change the 50 over to 40 over. how did it all start in the 60s? 40 overs.
40 overs is the best format. The only problem is now, if you move it to 40, it's closer to T20
Didn't
again.
Sachin come out with
good
the
thing,
40 overs and you have two 20-over games? It's 2 innings.
Yeah, he had 2 innings. The problem with that is that Australia tried a split innings game, and yet Aaron Finch blocking the ball in the 22nd over because he wanted to keep his wicket for the next part of the innings.
Well, change the law then.
Yeah.
Change that.
Yeah.
Change that. It's a new innings.
I
You
just,
start
don't
again.
see, I just don't see what the point of that is when you can play 2 T20 games on the same day anyway.
I'm certain Sachin talked about it.
No, he did. He did. No, you're right.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, I don't see how that is helping us or an advantage.
So
in
you're
any
saying
way.
Sachin's wrong?
No, I would never say Sachin. I'm sure there's some. He didn't like DRS, did he? DRS has gone all right.
One final point about the Test game. Test of ultimate endurance, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially, is the greatest flaw to the game or the greatest danger to the game weakened sides, because then it isn't the ultimate test,
Right.
Because the best players aren't playing. And the way the game is going,
Best players won't be available.
best players won't be available in any country.
Can I kick this off?
outside of the top?
Let me
three.
kick this off from a broadcasting when I was involved at Sky. And so they pay big money for Test match cricket, and then it's a weakened team on the phone. I ain't paid for a second 11. We've paid for the top notches, what's going on. So the broadcasters will have a view on that. If they're paying mega money, they want to see the best players.
And there is another thing: 3-day Test matches, Bazball, bad pitches.
So come back
or
to
pitches geared for short games.
It was given short shrift. Let's have 4-day Test matches. That needs a discussion again, because that's the way it's going. All teams are pushing on, and it's not that endurance now and blocking out and over my dead body, you're never going to get me out. They're taking a risk. Zach Crawley, they take a risk. Other teams are doing the same. Cricket has been mentioned in the football, hasn't it? Kieran Trippier, the England footballer, in interview has said we're going to be like cricket and we're going to bash on Bazball. He's just said it in an interview. 4-day cricket, discuss.
Well,
Come on, John, would you have 4-day cricket?
But there is a discussion for the next show, maybe.
All right.
4-day
Would you have
cricket.
4-day cricket instead of 5?
If you
The
could-
way it is now.
If you could guarantee
Get the overs in.
100 overs.
Get the
a
overs
day.
in. Come on, boy. I mean, I'd love to just go in the dressing room and, fellas, come on, stop about. It's as simple as that. They're messing around. Give me a drink, bring me a gloves, I'll have a pill, bring you a towel. I'll have another helmet, bring me a helmet, bring me a bat. I don't like this bat. No, absolutely not.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.